19th lesson. A day in Washington, D.C. Maria, Jose, and Bill are aboard a train which is just arriving in Washington, D.C.
It was certainly a piece of good luck, Bill, that your editor happened to send you to Washington at the same time we planned to go there. With you to guide us, I'm sure we'll get much more out of the city.
I only hope I live up to your expectations, Maria.
Well, you can start by telling us where we are now. I can't believe we are already in Washington. It seems we just got on the train.
That's because of the good company we've had, Maria.
I refuse to accept any compliments, Jose. The fact is that with such comfortable, fast trains, the trip from New York goes very quickly. If you'll look out of the window, you'll see that we're in Union Station already.
What crowds of people! Everyone seems to be moving in different directions. Many of them are carrying briefcases under their arms. Do you think they are all government workers?
Some of them may be, but don't forget that all kinds of people come to Washington. Since it is the capital of the United States, visitors come here from all over the world.
This station looks large enough to hold the city's entire population.
Not quite, Jose. But its concourse was built especially for the great crowds that Washington gets during presidential inaugurations and other important events.
Now that we are in Washington, Bill, I don't think we should impose on you too much. Why don't you let us know what your plans are? Then we shall try to arrange our own accordingly.
Since you mention it, Jose, that is just what I had in mind. I have to see someone at the Capitol for a short time, and while I am interviewing him, you and Maria could tour the government buildings and perhaps have time for a brief visit to the Supreme Court and the Library of Congress. I'm sure you won't get lost. There are excellent guides everywhere.
Fine. Then let's meet at the main entrance within an hour.
Sometime later, we rejoin our friends at the Capitol.
You know, dear, I don't think we are going to need a guide after all. I didn't want to mention this to Bill, but I have been studying a map of Washington, and I believe I could take you around and explain everything to you myself.
That's quite an undertaking, Maria. However, suppose you begin by taking me to the chamber of the Senate or the House of Representatives.
Gladly, my dear. But since this is a holiday, don't expect to see the legislature in session.
Yes, that's true. I hadn't thought of that. Then tell me something about the buildings themselves.
Very well. Since you are so interested in facts and statistics, you might like to know that the buildings stand on Capitol Hill, the highest point in the city, and that their main feature is the gigantic dome, which rises more than 280 feet, a landmark in the Washington skyline. There's a Statue of Freedom at the very top.
What's on the inside of the dome?
Let's go inside. Here we are, right under the dome in the great circular hall. Would you guess that it's 95 feet in diameter? The huge paintings which you see on the walls depict famous scenes from American history.
Fine. You are doing very well as a guide, Maria. Can you think of anything else we should see?
There is something else that would amuse you, I know. It's the little subway that runs from the Senate basement to the Senate office building, and it's free and open to the public.
That might be interesting. But in view of the fact that we do not have too much time, I would rather get at least a glimpse of the Supreme Court.
Let's walk out through this side entrance. It's only a block away, facing the Library of Congress, the largest library in the country.
Yes, I know that, Maria. And I also know that it contains the original manuscripts of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, as well as one of the few perfect copies of the Gutenberg Bible.
Look, Jose, you can see the Supreme Court building now. It's that immense structure of beautiful white marble with the portico and massive stairway. Isn't it an impressive building?
Yes, and a fitting symbol of guardianship for the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. After all, the Supreme Court is one of the cornerstones of the American political system. But don't you think it's time we got back to the Capitol? Bill will be waiting for us there.
If I'm not mistaken, that's Bill coming towards us in that car.
I thought I'd find you here. One of my friends at the Capitol lent me this car for the afternoon. He thought you could see more of the city with it.
Bill, I'm beginning to suspect you're a man of some influence in Washington. Can you arrange to introduce us to the President?
No, but I can take you to the White House where he lives.
Is his home open to the public?
Yes, in large part, except, of course, for his private living quarters. But I'll tell you all about it when we get there. I don't have time to stop now, but on your left on Constitution Avenue is the National Gallery of Art.
What's the name of the street we are on now? It has so many official-looking buildings.
This is Pennsylvania Avenue, and that is the White House ahead.
Yes, I could have guessed that, even if you hadn't told us. The grounds around it provide such a charming setting, and the building itself is a perfect example of 18th century style.
All the same, the present White House was actually built in the 19th century, after the first one was burnt in the War of 1812. Shall we park here and make a quick tour of the main lobby and the East Room, which is the largest room in the house?
Couldn't we save that for later on? There are so many things I want to see, I'm afraid we won't have time for them if we stay here too long.
Very well, we'll make the White House tour on our return trip. Let's proceed directly to the Washington Monument.
Isn't that it at the other end of the mall? It seems to me we saw it from the Capitol.
Of course you did, and probably a number of other buildings besides the Washington Monument. If you've read anything about the city, you may remember that the original plan for Washington, as drawn up by the famous French engineer L'Enfant, called for many such broad areas as the mall radiating out from strategic circles. If you look at your map, you are bound to notice that the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial are in a straight line radiating westward from the Capitol.
Oh, I'm familiar with the map, Bill. But you must admit that one actually has to see Washington to appreciate its wide avenues, many trees, and uninterrupted vistas. I understand that President Washington himself had a hand in its planning.
Then for that alone, he deserves his monument. By the way, Bill, would you care to climb with me to the top of the monument? I imagine that the view from there must be even better than that from the Capitol.
You're right about the view, Jose, but surely you're joking about the climbing. Do you realize that this is the tallest stone masonry building in the world? It's over 555 feet high. If we are going on with this whirlwind tour of Washington, we won't even have time to go up in the elevator.
Bill is right, my dear. Remember, we want to see the Lincoln Memorial as well as the Jefferson Memorial and several other attractions.
Well, suppose we make the Lincoln Memorial next on our itinerary. If you can spare about 15 minutes and Jose still wants some exercise, you might walk there by way of the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool, which makes a perfect approach to the monument.
This time I veto the suggestion, Bill. I want to save my energy for climbing the beautiful stairway to the Lincoln Memorial, for that is one monument I do want to see from the inside.
All right, Maria. By driving along Constitution Avenue, you get a chance to see the lovely building of the Pan American Union, which is said to reflect Latin American architecture.
And, if I'm not mistaken, that is the new State Department building far to the right.
It's exciting to think we are so close to the place where decisions affecting the whole world are made.
But now we're even closer to the Lincoln Memorial. Are you sure you want to go inside? You know, you can almost see the heroic gray statue of Lincoln from here.
Go if you like, Maria, but we have only a couple of hours left for seeing Mount Vernon and the tomb of the unknown soldier.
Very well, then. I shall content myself with admiring its exterior. But could you tell me, Bill, is that the Jefferson Memorial which we can see across the tidal basin, and which also looks like a Greek temple?
Yes, you can recognize it from the circular Pantheon form, which is said to be the same as that used in Jefferson's estate at Monticello.
If only the famous Japanese cherry trees were in blossom. Then I would really love to take time out for a walk between the two monuments.
And that would be a walk well worth taking, with the hundreds of pink blossoms reflected in the pool. At that time of the year, Washington is at its best. A half an hour later, our friends arrive at Mount Vernon.
What a wonderful drive along the Potomac. I think this countryside would be worth seeing even if we did not have Mount Vernon for our destination.
Yes, but now that we are here, let's not miss anything. First, I want to see the mansion where Washington lived, and then the mausoleum where he and his wife are buried.
But there's a great deal more to the estate. You must remember that this was a real plantation. And the smaller buildings that you see around the mansion comprise a smokehouse, dairy, greenhouse, coach house, slave quarters, and kitchen. You see that they are all neatly arranged in a symmetrical pattern joined by arcades.
All of that may be very interesting to a historian, but I am far more intrigued by the mansion itself as one of the best examples of colonial architecture. What a beautiful cupola it has, and what perfect proportions.
Just wait till you see the inside. The rooms are still furnished, just as they were when the Washington family lived here. Everything is perfectly preserved.
And what a beautiful view of the Potomac you get from here. If I had been Washington, I never would have left Mount Vernon.
In that case, Jose, you make it harder than ever for me to pull you away from here. But we have nearly an hour's ride to the Arlington National Cemetery and the tomb of the unknown soldier.